Hello, and welcome to the SNES Podcast. I'm Joe. You guys know me. I'm the co-host. Today I'm the host. Um, Greg is out with some personal issues, so we're doing a stopgap episode. Fun. We did this before, I want to say about maybe 2 years ago with George. Today, I brought my brother from another mother, Devin Decker. How you doing, buddy?
I am very happy to be here. I think we've only done a podcast one other time together, right? Like we both are podcasters. We've been doing it for at least 10 years, and we've only been on a podcast together, I think, the one time, right? Back in the Friends on a Couch days. So this is exciting stuff. And when he says brother from another mother, this guy is my blood. I tell Joe stories all the time. So, I am excited to get to be here. I wish the circumstances were better, but, talking about Super Nintendo games with one of my oldest friends, sign me up. So this was the easiest invitation I think I've ever accepted.
And I'll tell you right now, there's an open invitation for any other time in, the future, whether that be, down the line in this year or next year or whatever. But, anytime there's an SNES game coming up that you want to cover with us, just make that suggestion.
I don't want to be like, that seems premature, because we haven't even talked about this one yet, but I do appreciate that open invitation, and I fully understand if it is revoked after this episode. I will not hold it against you. We've been through too much together for that to even show any sort of damage to the armor that is our long friendship. But I do appreciate that. Some of the pressure just sloughed off my shoulders. So I thank you for that.
So do you want to let the listeners kind of get a feel for who you are, where you're coming from, what other kind of ventures you're doing? Might as well plug that.
Yeah, let's plug it in the front. Yeah. So my name is Devin Decker. Again, I've been podcasting since about 2013. Currently, I am doing two shows that are my babies. The first is the Say Report. That is a weekly show that we joke is the show about everything. It's sort of an antithesis to Seinfeld. I know this is family friendly. That one is very not family friendly because we're talking about everything. And if you're going to do that, you can't really have filters. So that's just a heads up if you want to check out the Say Report. We use some of those 4-letter words I know they don't use over here at the NES podcast. And then my other one, and this is the last year for it, we actually just had our production meeting planning out how we're going to finish it up, is the Adam Sandler Cinematic Universe podcast. And that one, we have embarked on an odyssey to see which films from Adam Sandler can fit together into a cinematic universe based on our own arbitrary rules and commandments of what would form an Adam Sandler cinematic universe. And we only have about 14 movies left to cover. So this is going to be it. And we're hoping that if Netflix does release Happy Gilmore 2, that's where we get to finish this long, strange journey on. So those are the big things that I do that I have my name assigned to. So, pop culture is a big part of both of those. And also in addition to that, I was real big in the Link to the Past randomizer, race community as it was emerging. Once some of the harder tricks became you need to know this in order to be competitive, I sort of dropped out of it. But I was big streaming the Link to the Past randomizer, and I was even part of the development of that because I would love to play seeds that could not be finished and see, well, they actually can be finished. You just need to do this, this, and this. So if you want that to be part of the logic, this game is not as broken as you think. And I've been playing Super Nintendo games since it released. I got a Super Nintendo on release, and it is the system. It's not the system I have the most games for. That's the GameCube, but that's just because the games were so cheap. But the Super Nintendo is one that I have a lot of love for the games of. So I can't believe it's taken this long for us to have this conversation and for me to be here with you, Joe. So I do thank you again for that.
Yeah, absolutely. We end every episode with, email us and contact us on Facebook and whatnot. So, you could have reached out. But
I could have read. That's true. I don't know. I'm really more invite only at this point in my career. So like,
that's fair.
I don't audition anymore. No. I'm not that big a diva, but you set me up too good for it, Joe. So I had to take it.
And I'm glad that you talked about your history with the Super Nintendo, because that was going to be the next thing that I was going to ask you. So I'm glad we got that out of the way. All right. So what everyone's been waiting for. We are talking Ghost Sweeper Mikami Joshi wa Nice Body. A mouthful for one. Two, as you know, like with the previous episode I did with George, these special episodes are strictly a Super Famicom games that we are not going to cover at any other point on the podcast. So, yay!
That's more the SFC podcast, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
So a little bit of background. This game was developed by Natsume, which most of you should know from Pocky and Rocky, which we've covered, Wild Guns, which we've covered, and Natsume Championship Wrestling. And believe it or not, they actually developed the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers game, the first game. Not the one based on the movie, but the actual first game. They developed that as well. This is based on the anime, Ghost Sweeper Mikami, the anime, which was based on the manga, which showed up weekly on Shoujin, not Shoujin Jump, but it was Shoujin Sunday. There's 45 episodes to the anime. It's actually kind of short. I actually expected a little bit more meat there, like as far as episodes go, but each one is self-contained, which I really like. I really like animes that are just, like you can watch one episode and it's fine. And I guess the best way to describe everything is basically everything's become overdeveloped and crowded in Japan, which has forced many of its indigenous spirits and ghosts to lose their homes. Due to this problem caused by the homeless spirits, a new profession was created, the Ghost Sweepers. The anime, the game, is focused on GS Mikami Company, which is led by Riko Mikami and her two assistants, a boy, Tedo Yokoshima, and a ghost girl, Akano. It follows the exploits of this group and of the exorcist trying to basically combat supernatural forces in an effort to basically just get paid. That is the simplest and most compact explanation I can come up with for this.
well, I would just like to. I mean, I don't want to like step on this, but the fact that in the first episode, the first job that she completes, she makes $960,000 in the yen equivalent, which is now like $1.1 million. Like she all she wants is to make money, but she makes really good money. Like, it's hard not to compare the Ghost Sweeper to the Ghost Buster in a lot of ways, and they are not making that kind of money at all. So, like, when I'm like, oh, there's a lot of money in ghost sweeping for her. Yeah. And she's never satisfied. And she also underpays Yokoshima and Okunu. Yokoshima makes 250 yen an hour, which is like roughly $2.90. And Okunu makes 30 yen a day, which is like negligent. It's like less than 40 cents. Because the other thing is, like, this show, it's all available on YouTube, subbed. And in addition to that, they have like really nice footnotes that explain what is going on for any of the cultural differences. Yeah. I was only able to watch the first episode. I spent more time playing the game, but watching that first episode, I'm like, this is like my favorite way to watch anime now.
Yeah, I also found a playlist that had all the episodes. So I also watched the first episode and immediately added it to my playlist so that I can end up watching all of them at some point. I actually really enjoyed it.
Me too. But I do have to say, if I got to get in tune with Sailor Moon, because that cartoon has got the boom anime babes that made me think the wrong thing, had Ed Robertson seen Ghost Super Mikami, I think his head might have exploded.
Yeah.
Like, it is, can I say the word horny? Because it's a very horny anime, even for
It is.
1993. Like, you see like female anatomy in that first episode, and I'm like, wow, I wasn't expecting that. And I mean, it's been a while since I've like watched earlier anime, but I wasn't expecting it, even based on the game. Like, the game is, she's wearing a short dress, right, and all that, but I didn't expect the anime to be quite as visual as it turned out to be. So.
Yeah, and I was just about to, describe Mikami, so this way people kind of get an idea. And yes, in the game, she's wearing, mini dresses of different, multiple colors. She does the same thing in the anime, but camera angles, there's that. Yeah. And she's always wearing high heels, and she was drawn with legs for days. So yeah, this is probably the most family friendly we can make the content.
I mean, the game is relatively tame, especially compared to, I've been going on a bit of a crusade in like my other gaming about just how much like sexual content seems to be finding its way into the more indie games that I'm playing, specifically like Grim Guardians, now Gal Guardians. Like, that game has a T rating, but then like by the third playthrough, you're collecting underage girls' undergarments. And like that really kind of turned me off a little bit to it. But then I look at a game like this based on a series like that, and it's always kind of been there in the DNA of gaming. And it was weirdly like kind of a breath of fresh air. Like, it's not like we're becoming more deviant with what we're putting into video games. Right. It's just that what had previously been international only, not localized for the US, is where a lot of it was. We were kind of kept sheltered and guarded with the game releases we were getting. And then I say that and I think about like how Bionic Commando, they changed the final boss from actually being Adolf Hitler and all the crosses and Christian iconography and that. So like, yeah, I don't know why like this was the big revelation for me, because I've certainly experienced it before, but yeah, I was not expecting it, especially when the games that you gave me like to choose between, and I do appreciate that, was The Fireman, which is a game I had played before, and GS Mikami, a game I had never even heard of. So of course I'm going to go for the mystery box, right? It could be anything. It could even be a boat. And what it turned out to be was kind of the secret to me, like finally finishing my thesis about there being more like salacious material in video games. So I thank you for that as well.
Well, you're welcome, sir. Yeah, I mean, and you know what, I'll even talk about it. Like, so The Fireman is a game that I've played before. It's something I was familiar with, which is one of the reasons I had it there as an option. Inside Baseball, I first asked my son to join me just because I knew that I could get him on that day. It could be done and recorded, and we'd be good to go. I didn't have to do any planning. He respectfully told me that, yeah, you know what? Like, it's just not something I'm interested in, and I would rather see you do it with someone who could have fun with it. So that was when I respectfully was like, okay, well, I need to find a different game because now I need to entice somebody. And then you offered your sword, and I appreciate it. And as soon as I sent that game over and you were like, I've already beaten Fireman, I knew the route we were going, and I only had a screenshot and a name of the game. I had not even played it myself. I didn't look at any footage, nothing. So this really was a blind faith jump.
And I don't want to like spoil anything here like for that, but I'm now in love with this game. Like the music is really good. I believe it's one of the people who worked on some of the musical stuff for the Castlevania series. Mm-hmm. This game, like, it's a Natsume game. It's certainly a Natsume game. It feels that way. But also along the way, it feels so much like the like Retroidvanias, the ones that are more linear, level built, as opposed to the ones where you're exploring a large map. And I mean, it hooked me from the beginning. And then because of all the like Japanese folklore and monsters that you end up fighting in the Castlevania games, it was really fun to see like bitterflies once you got to the fourth level. So it like this game kind of feels like a missing link to like Castlevania history to me. And I know that it has nothing to do with Konami, but it really like scratched that part of my brain. And even in that first playthrough, I was developing like speedrun strats for how I want to approach bosses. So yeah.
And I mean, you know, there's no format here because this is a special episode. So it's all good. So yeah, I mean, touching on what you said, I mean, this whole game, spoiler, the whole game is good, in my opinion. But I really enjoyed the music as well. I was actually quite shocked at how well the music was. The other thing is, this game's gorgeous, in my opinion.
Oh my goodness. So there is no English translation for this game. Like, I think, like, if I had to talk, like, if we're gonna throw some stones at this game, if we're gonna talk about some of the negatives of it, this game has not been translated. But there is a YouTube video out there that is fully translated. And since it wasn't translated, since it was in Japanese, I've been playing like Japanese games since 1999. When I tracked down a ROM of Final Fantasy V, I had no idea what was going on, but I wanted to play Final Fantasy V. I couldn't believe that there was a Final Fantasy I didn't know about on the Super Nintendo. And then from there, I played things like what would become Trials of Mana, Daiken Setsetsu 3. I played all of the other Goemon games, right? The Mystical Ninja games that were Japanese only. So coming back to this, I really was brought back to like being, God, I think I was 13 years old in 1999 and playing these games where I have no idea what is going on, but I am having a blast. But because I don't know what's going on, I just have a tendency to skip those cutscenes. And I was thankful that I found that YouTube video that had them translated, because in addition to the actual gameplay segments being gorgeous and responsive and like switching up what you're doing from level to level, those cutscenes are absolutely gorgeous. Big, beautiful sprites, like wonderful animations of them speaking and moving with each other. Like, if you're playing it in Japanese, don't make my mistake. Watch those cutscenes just for the art of it all, because it is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, I agree. And I also found that video. So I initially had the same playthrough you did. I literally skipped through those cutscenes.
I yelled Japanese and then hit the start button every time. I'm like, I also yelled cake every time I got to find cake to refill my health. It was a loud playthrough.
And of course, I am a horrible podcaster, so I'd already done up my notes, so I didn't go back to edit any notes from watching the English translation. But the general gist is that basically they get an invite to make some money collecting some gems for a statue. Go do stuff. That's the best way to explain it.
No, the best way to explain it is suddenly Ghost Sleeper Mikami becomes Dragon Ball. Because the little statue that they receive as a gift from a like Okishun, I believe is his name. He's only in 2 of the scenes. The lore behind that statue is that if you collect the 7 gems, it will grant whatever wish you want.
Yeah.
So like reading that, I'm like, oh, so you guys are just like, you know what's pretty big right now is Dragon Ball. How can we make this show more like Dragon Ball for the game experience?
Yeah, and I'm really wondering if like this aspect of the game actually happens in the anime. That's going to be fun to discover. But if not, like, wow, what a random, but yet eerily similar storyline that you're right you would get in like Dragon Ball.
Yeah, it is. Because it's going to summon the goddess who will grant your wishes. I mean, I can't
Right.
remember any of the dragons' names right now. It has been too long since I've watched Dragon Ball. And then it was back in the times where an episode would just be Goku going, "Oh!" for the whole runtime. So,
Right. So you do get some varied gameplay here. For one, you're swinging. I think it's actually named the Exorcist Stick.
Yeah.
I believe that's what the actual name is. But it's basically like a bow staff, kind of, but not really. But you can swing it to the side, which is cool. But then you can also swing downwards, which was a nice little wrinkle. I wasn't expecting that. And then there are platforms that you can do that upward swing thing, and it allows you to attach to it and jump on top of that platform, which will come into play later in the game.
Yeah, it was one of those moments where, like, if I hadn't read in the manual to do that, right? And I'm always messing around with controls. I want to try anything. So, like, I found that, like, within the first level, I found the ability to swing up onto those platforms. But then later on in the game, like, if you hadn't figured that out, you would just be stuck. It's like one of those moments where if I hadn't learned how to interact with these platforms, I would hate this game. So it is. Yeah.
So I had a similar situation. So I came across the first one that you come across, and I was like, huh, well, how do I get up there? And I kept jumping and jumping and jumping. And then I finally got so frustrated, I was hitting all the buttons while I was jumping. And then it did it. And I said, oh, wait, I think I figured that out, and then realized that, oh, I can replicate this. Thank God, like I said, I figured that out.
The exact words I said to myself is, wow, I really hope that doesn't end up being a big part of the game later on. And it
foreshadowing for level 6.
Yeah. Oh, level 7. It's
level 7, sorry.
The dream level.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing, as I mentioned, it's the dream level. There's also no rhyme or reason or connective tissue. Like you said, the anime itself is all self-contained episodes. So there is this overarching story of we need to find these 7 gems in order to activate this goddess statue. But like, it just seems like they randomly stumble upon them running around in the world.
So true.
Like, I really love the third level, and I didn't know that the third level, I thought it was just a giant cat monster that she was rising. I didn't realize that the intro into the third level, which based on and all of these are based on the translations from the YouTube video, so I don't know how accurate they are, but the miniature murder gauntlet is the name of Report 3, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she got shrunk? And she's just riding a cat across the rooftops? Suddenly this level makes so much more sense to me.
Yes.
With the swallows and the giant insects being the enemies.
Yes. And that's one thing that I give all the praise to this game for. You would think starting this off that it's your traditional beat 'em up, you walk to the right, swing your stick, destroy the ghosts, and other ghouls and whatever that you come across. But then, you're suddenly riding on the back of a cat, and you gotta, jump and dodge obstacles while you're attacking things, while things are flying at you. You also end up getting like a shoot 'em up level where you're riding on a broom. It's like, I expected this to just be a straightforward beat 'em up, like you would traditionally see for a licensed product. And just, this totally blew me out of the water.
Yeah, that cat level, I loved it. And, like, GDQ just happened, so I'm like, all right, we're in Nautiskrola now, so if you want to read some donations, right? Like, and then the broomstick level, I mean, like, you call it a shoot 'em up, but unless you have one of the power-ups, it's kind of a beat 'em up, but you're flying through the air, which is very interesting because everything that you're fighting is your classic, like, side-scrolling shmup sort of enemy. So you have to either avoid or get in close enough to destroy it. Like the variety in this game, like what her moveset actually represents, like, cause that swing up, you can also do damage with it. So if you find yourself surrounded, like it's an interesting way to like wipe out a bunch of airborne enemies all in one go. So it really was just, I was smiling every time something else happened. Like, especially like the 6th level, you could be forgiven for thinking that like that's the final level, because if you can't read Japanese, there are only 6 slots for gems up until that point. That boss, which is like the clown poltergeist that then turns into the giant rat.
Yep.
And did you end up getting turned into a doll in that fight? Did that happen to you, or were you like fortunate enough to avoid that?
So that did not happen to me. Please enlighten me.
So the clown, while it's riding on the giant rat, that is just out of the Nutcracker. Like, this is the Rat King from the Nutcracker.
Okay.
He has the golden needle sword and everything. He summons little versions of himself, like little doll versions of his clown self, and if you don't wipe them all out, and it's usually 4 at a time, if one of them is able to play their little trumpet, the rat roars, and it's this circle of multicolored light that comes for you. I don't know how to avoid it. It is completely unavoidable. It is like screen filling, and once Mikami is hit by it, she's turned into a doll, and all you can do is jump. So the fight becomes like avoid damage until you get the ability to attack again. And like, because unfortunately, I'll say this, a lot of the boss fights are pretty easy. Like there's not a lot of difficulty in most of the boss fights.
Yeah.
But you know, I went a little bit longer with it. I'm like, oh, I don't need to do them. I can destroy this enemy, this boss, before those little guys become a problem. And then that happens, and I'm like, oh wow. So then I went back and I like took my time with a lot of the bosses to see they do have some moves that if you're able to just wail on them, you're not going to see. Like the flea, like witch doctor that is the boss of the 3rd level while you are shrunk. Like, it ends up doing some crazy stuff if you let it live long enough.
So I think that was my problem with the game, because I went I'm going to wail on you until you're dead, because that's what you do with the bosses. Mm-hmm. So I really didn't see anything too complex from them, which was unfortunate, it sounds like, because I clearly missed some good stuff. Yeah, I mean, all my notes for the bosses was pretty much like, prime example, the second boss where you're fighting like this baby doll thing, was like, avoid the dolls that are coming at you, watch out for her witch-like hands, attack the hands, and keep swiping. Swipe, and avoid them. That's it.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much my notes for almost every boss. Like, the 4th boss with the spirit pooch, just attack him.
Yeah, if you just keep attacking him,
and just keep hitting them. Yeah. You know, jump out of the way when you need to, but like, that's it. And that is the biggest issue I had with this game, is that difficulty is, in my opinion, non-existent. If you are someone who has played retro games for a while, this game is piece of cake. I think even most people wouldn't have too much of an issue in the 6th or even 7th level. It'll take some time. You know, you're probably not going to get it the first time, but I think you'll be able to get it.
Yeah. And it's infinite continues.
That's my biggest gripe. But like, sorry, I don't mean to walk over you.
No.
Just wanted to get this thought out. So like.
Sorry.
It's okay.
You know, it like what I was going to say is that it is infinite continues, and on the normal difficulty, which is strange to me. I had wanted to go through an easy playthrough. I started one. The easy playthrough doesn't have passwords. All of the passwords that exist in the game are for the normal mode only. And that is strange to me. I thought it might be one of those situations where like easy mode ends up being the harder mode. But the first level, like those Mudman enemies, that take 2 hits. They only take 1 hit in easy mode. So it is definitely an easier mode. And the fact that it erases the password system is just strange to me. Like, I don't know why that would be part of it. Can it not handle passwords, like that many passwords in its memory?
So I didn't play easy mode because I went straight to normal because some of the reviews that I quickly saw on this game all stated that, one, the game's already easy enough.
Yes.
And 2, that easy mode only allows you to play the first 3 levels.
Okay, so that would make sense. Again, I only played through the first level to get a feel for it, and I wondered if it was one of those situations. I mean, that is a very North American sort of wrinkle. Yeah. Like, I think about how Contra the Alien Wars, I will always tell people to play the SFC version because regardless of your difficulty, you get to see the full ending of the game.
Right.
Because there's so much, like, that was the Nintendo hard problem. We don't want people to beat this in a rental period.
Right.
So,
yep.
If you play on easy mode, you're not going to get the full game, like, up your game. So that would make sense. If you could only play like a certain amount of the game on easy mode. But why they wouldn't have a password system or something like that. But, you know, it is also Infinite Continues because, again, it's not a North American game. So they're okay if you just keep playing and experience the story. And it does, that password system ended up being really nice because did you find any of the secret stashes in your playthrough?
I didn't even know there were secret stashes.
Yeah. So I was trying to get all of the passcodes. And in the second level, I'm like, well, the easiest way to do that is to get to the first pit, and then I can game over there. But that first pit in the second level is actually a stash where you can get an extra life and another one of the like talismans that she can use to absorb all the enemies on screen. Yep. And there's a big G written there. And I'm like, what does that mean? So then I went through all the levels again, and I found stashes in level 4. Like right at the beginning, there's that part where there's like one of the flip up platforms that's moving up and down. If you ride that up, then you get to a platform that has a big S over it. And then in the 7th level, if you go left once you fall at the beginning and then use the unique power up in that level to climb to the top of that area, there's an M. So like it's a nice little Ghost Sweeper Mikami like kind of, hey, you found this secret thing. It doesn't do anything to change the game. Finding all of them does not modify what happens at the end. But it is it was fun that there's something hidden in this, right? Real Ready Player One, I found the 3 Easter eggs hand over the company guy, right?
Wow.
So
yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, there was a lot of meat on the bones of this particular game. I've played through it 3 times, and then I watched that playthrough, and I'm probably not going to stop. So I have to thank you for that.
Well, I guess you're welcome. If I created the game, that'd be one thing. I mean, I just brought it to you.
True. But no, but like, I mean, like I said, I really like the Japanese, especially. I think that sometimes story can get in the way of my experience with a game, because as a kid, like there very rarely there was story. It was just about playing the game till you beat it. Yep. So with a game like this where you can skip the cutscenes, like thank goodness you can skip the cutscenes. I don't recommend it because they are beautiful, but you know, the fact that they don't make you sit there and watch it is like, thank you. I want skippable cutscenes all the time. I'll watch them when I'm ready to watch them. But if I'm just playing it for fun, I like to be able to skip them. And that being a feature in this game, I'm just like, this is the best part about it. Because if I had to sit and watch them speak in a language that I cannot read and I like only barely understand, like I don't think I would have cleared the game 3 times.
Yeah, that's fair. And also, I mean, that's a plus also with your speed running as well. So, you know, skippable cutscenes.
Yeah. Which that doll fight, right? Like I said, that's where I started like developing speedrun tech. Yeah. It was getting it so that both of the hands are on one side and then just keep hitting them. Because if you don't let the hand go back to its like resting place, it can attack.
Right.
So, you know, and just having them off screen and like, if I attack this pixel, I'm doing damage. like it did. It awoke a lot of things in me that have kind of been dormant as I've been playing more modern games. So
in other words, I've created a monster.
yeah, you've reawoken a monster. It's more Friday the 13th Part 6 Devin Lives than anything else. Fair.
So it's my fault for sticking the lightning rod into your chest.
Directly into my heart and thinking, that's not going to have any consequences.
Oh, man. Yeah, is there anything else you want to talk about with this game?
I think I've covered mostly anything. I mean, I have all the passcodes. I don't know if you like do that as part of these. I mean, I know that this is like formatless one. They're out there. They're very easy to find. So yeah, no, I just want to talk about the 7th report. First of all, I like that the levels are reports. I think that's anything that like has a unique way of referring to the level is instantly going to like warm my heart. Cause like stage or level, that's so boring. So the fact that like level 1 is report 1 is very fun. When did you realize that the 7th level is all taking place inside of Yoshishima's brain?
So I didn't realize, I think until like the end, like when you get to like the boss, you see that little blue demon thing floating in the sky, and then like Yoshi's like he's there, and like something they say something in Japanese, because of course I can't read that, and I immediately assume that this is not good, and then they materialize into some other thing and then attacks. So I was like okay, but I mean that level's pretty varied in general as far as like going through all the stuff that's in that level, so it felt off.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I completely understand.
Dreamworld makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't felt so good in a Dreamworld since the Simpsons arcade game, I have to be honest. But I had no idea until she's like, all right, time to get the 7th gem. And she hits him with the exorcism stick, knocks him out, and goes, let's go into his dream. And that moment before the final boss fight, he's like, why would you bring such a demon into my mind? Like, I'm going to have to deal with the scars of this. And she's like, no, but it's for the money, right? I'll give you a bonus. And it's like, oh, okay. Thanks for that. Like, yeah. So, I mean, like, I think that's the only, like, other real unique thing is that, like, it is definitely unique because you get the ability to build those platforms that you can swing up on. That's, like, the unique power-up in that level. And you have to use it. And there are some, just like, that'd be like my second strike against the game if I had it. Those sections just seem to go on forever. Like, it is such a heavy climb. And occasionally, like, it's half gravity, so you're jumping like 3 times as high. And there's a lot going on in that level, which, I mean, it is a final level, so there should be a lot going on in it. But yeah, like it is. If you didn't know how to swing up onto platforms before that level, you would be stuck, like in at least 3 different sections of it. So, but that's, I think that's it. I can't think of anything else. I mean, I do. Again, thank you for bringing this game to my attention. I'm probably going to watch through the anime as well, since like Toei put that up. It's Toei who put up the full series, subbed and footnoted. So, like, I miss those days. Like those YouTube days where, we'll put up something that, we know we can't really make money off of. And but I think we've covered everything. Like it's a relatively short game. It's essentially 8 levels, the 7 levels to get the gems. And then the final level is just the boss fight with the goddess. Right. So I mean, it's fun. I recently had a friend ask me for like games that are fun as a way to like warm up before you're gonna like play a game for 2 to 3 hours. This is a perfect nomination for that type of game.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think that's it, man. Like,
and I mean, I think we're in pretty much an agreement here. This is a great game. Definitely check it out. That being said, this is probably the first game out of all the games we've ever covered on the SNES podcast where I'm going to absolutely hardline say emulate this game. And I'm saying that for a reason. As of right now, there are no copies of this game for sale on, or sorry, there are no copies of this game that has sold on the US eBay. And there are currently 15 listings that range from $75, which look like a repro, all the way to $200 complete in box. Unless you collect Super Famicom games, I don't see the reason to have the physical cart. I'm going to tell you to emulate it. That's how I played it. Had no issues. So yeah, and honestly, like the box art's really cool. But the cart, I don't know. Have you ever seen Super Famicom like carts? They're generally gray and like it's got like a half an inch.
Yeah, they're not the same as a Super Nintendo cart. I mean, I have a bunch. Like when I first started to get into like Link to the Past randomizers, I bought a Japanese copy of the game so that I could play through it and understand any of the little nuances on actual hardware. Now, I mean, I have flash carts and all that, so I use an FX Pack Pro to play this game on my Super NT, and it felt excellent. So, like, even if, like, you're emulated on a computer, it plays excellent, but it also does play excellent if you're able to put it onto a flash card. And yeah, I agree with Joe. This is a game that is fine to emulate, right? It's not. I mean, I'm going to advocate for emulators and all that anyway. I think that the costs of retro games are ridiculous.
Yes.
And it's not like if any of that money were going to the people, like how Joe said, he didn't make this game. So my thank you for this game. It's kind of hollow. But like if me emulating this game from 32 years ago, like we're taking money out of somebody who deserves it pocket, then it'd be difficult. Like if they re-released this, even if it like went out on the Nintendo Switch Online platform, right? Because we saw like Psycho Dream is on there. Have you ever done Psycho Dream? I love that game. That game's incredible. Like if this were up on the Nintendo Switch Online, then I might have an issue saying like emulate this game, but no, like it is not available anywhere. And yeah, and it's not like one of those games that like is meaty enough where like you're going to play this, it's going to be like 30, 45, maybe an hour to complete it. So $80 for that, just the value doesn't seem to be there.
Yeah, no, 100%. All right. Well, I think that does it for us today. Thank you for joining us for the SNES podcast. This has been a special report with Joe and Devin Decker. Also, Devin, plug your stuff again before we get out of here.
Yeah, sure thing. So weekly, I release a podcast called The Say Report, the show about everything, in which we will tackle any topic that just happens to come to our minds. Actually, we just started our 9th season this year, and 418 episodes as of this recording. And we also do very special episodes the last Thursday of every other month, so any of the even months. And those are more focused. We're going to look at, what are we doing in February? We're looking at Empire Records for the 30th anniversary. And we like to look at Renee Zellweger films in February. Right, and like in April, I know what we're doing in April as well. It's American Pie Presents Bandcamp, because we've been looking at the American Pie films in April. And that one turns 20 years old in 2025. So, like, that's the stuff that we got. And then the other one, which we do every month, is the Adam Sandler Cinematic Universe podcast. That tends to come out around the 9th of each month in honor of the fact that Adam Sandler was born on September 9th. And again, that is another, like, hyper-focused. We watch the film. We treat it as sort of like an academic exercise to determine how this film could fit into our cinematic universe that we have built our rules and regulations for. So, I mean, those are the big ones that are there. So it's weekly for the Say Report and monthly for the Adam Sandler Cinematic Universe podcast. And, I mean, those are the two big things that I'm doing right now. I don't have anything else to pitch or plug or bring up at this time.
Man, you saying American Pie Bandcamp just, like, unlocked a core memory. That's like, dude... Like, I haven't really thought about it, but, like, that made me think about it. Like,
Yeah.
We've known each other for like 20 years.
Yeah, we've known it. Like I was just telling the story about when I first saw one of your tattoos and my reaction to it, and I'm like, oh my goodness, that was 20 years ago.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Crazy,
yeah,
man.
Yes. So I mean, like, and I always love podcasting with you. I mean, I love to talk with you. Like, there's a reason that we've been friends for over 20 years, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So,
well, man, you can find us on Facebook, the SNES Podcast. That's a semi-active group. There are some people who post a bunch of Super Nintendo like playthroughs and stuff like that. I'm trying to be more active in there and try to build up the community. We'll see what happens. But you can always reach out to us there, post on there, send us your suggestions there. Greg has the email. I never remember the email, so I apologize. It's something at Yahoo. Probably at the SNES Podcast at yahoo.com. You can find me on Twitter. It's still Twitter to me, at JOESUX30. Also, again, I have a very public Facebook, as you all know, not family friendly. Also, I do the Radical Retro Roundup, which is coming back. We're recording in about 10 days. So we're going to be doing that. That you can find on all your podcasty things. Not family friendly. You guys already know the drill with that one. And of course, I welcome you all to join me on the Radical Retro Roundup page on Facebook. And again, not family friendly, but also like me and the 3 other people that might post in there kind of keep it family friendly anyway. So it's all good. The Radical Retro Roundup started off as a family friendly podcast.
Yeah, Kids Incorporated. It doesn't get more family friendly than that. So
yeah. So, when I brought it back, I was like, I want to talk about stuff and just like kind of not have to skirt around things. So I was just like, you know what, it's gonna drop it. And it worked out because I had been gone from that podcast for well over like 2 years, I think. So yeah, fun stuff. Anyways, all right, bye.
Bye.